Hello, dear beloveds. Well, I wasn't scheduled to go live right now, but I had quite an incredible dream last night, and it's been a long time since I have recalled my dreams or had any sort of such potent symbology as what happened last night. So I thought, well, why don't I just share it with you? Because the information that was in the dream was so it just felt so relevant for all of us who are on this path of service, particularly those of us who identify as the priestess. And what I want to share with you is a little bit about two things, both the dream and what the path of the priestess is. I've been sharing on Instagram lately, and one of the posts was about if you are called to the path of the priestess, and a number of women have contacted me and said, well, how do I know if I'm on that path? And I haven't formulated a response yet there, but I thought I'll share my thoughts here, because I want to, sort of clarify that this is not an exclusive path. This is a path that I have a definition of, but it is a path that I believe is experiencing a zeitgeist and a renaissance, and that many, many women are called to this path. But first, let me begin with the dream. It was one of those experiences in a dream where the second you wake up, like in that state between sleeping and waking, where the dream's deeper meaning translates itself into something reasonable to understand in 3D reality. Because so often when we go to describe our dreams, as I was just doing to someone who appeared in my dream last night, I won't share that part of the dream with you, I was recounting the dream to her, and I'm like, this sounds really crazy, but it made so much sense in the dream. But this was one of those moments where the symbol that I was given in the dream translated itself immediately. And I was in a beautiful spiritual shop with my priestesses, not all of them, but there were a lot of them there, and we were maybe on a retreat or on an adventure together, which is funny because I'm about to go away on retreat with my postgrads, and we are going to a place called Crystal Castle. So we may well be replicating this experience. And we were in this beautiful sort of spiritual shop, and I was with these women, and I felt really wonderful. And I noticed that 3 men appeared in the shop. And the men, I was somehow privy to their conversation as though I was part of it, even though I wasn't where they were. And the men, 2 of the men were talking about, they were planning to meet. And one man was saying, remember what our agenda is, remember what we are here for. And his agenda was to continue the campaign that had been going on for many thousands of years, to keep the divine feminine repressed and persecuted and reduced to in its size and power and glory. And this was all something I was observing in the dream, but it was in the translation in that moment between waking and sleeping where it all became to make sense. The 2 other men were like, whatever, we've got all the power now. We don't care about the ongoing campaign. It was like, we're just drunk on our own power. We've got everything we wanted. So why would we continue worrying about, being strategic and continuing this campaign to keep the feminine repressed? I mean, talk about a freaking amazing dream. Here I am being privy to this symbol of, the repression of the divine feminine and the active campaigning that has gone on for thousands of years to keep the energy of the divine feminine persecuted, and how the men, 2 out of 3 of the men who were standing there, for this meeting, no longer cared about the purpose of their meeting. All they wanted was the power. They were drunk on their own power. They were no longer invested in it. So what happened was that immediately translated in my head as I woke up. So obviously in the dream, as we know, dreams are not always that easy to understand. The meaning presented itself to me. And then what came almost immediately after that, as I was, I get up early, I go to yoga, was that is the way it is right now. That the reasons that the divine feminine were persecuted and the end of the goddess worship cultures came about has been forgotten. Like the campaign happened with intention, but it's like the reasons why have been forgotten. And the powers that be, which are not, it's not about men versus women. This is just symbols, remember. This is symbolic language, symbolic archetypal language. Those campaign leaders have now lost their sort of focus, and it's really just about the attainment of power. And what I became immediately aware of, and this is what's so exciting and I really want to share with you, and thank you for sticking with me, because I know that listening to other people's dreams it's like watching paint dry, is that now is our time, sisters. Because their eye is off the ball. It's like we have to awaken in giant numbers, because there's this hunger and the lust for power was satiated, and now no one or very few people are turning up to the cause with that commitment that started the campaign all those thousands of years ago, which was the end of the goddess worship culture and the beginning of the persecution of the divine feminine. All of this I'm speaking about in symbolic language, okay? So I want you to not feel fear around, oh my God, is this actually like are there people meeting in boardrooms? There might be, but who cares? Because the real meaning of the dream is that we have an opportunity, because there's a destabilization, that campaign that had been going on for thousands of years. There is no longer that focused attention upon it. They got what they wanted. They're the bosses of the world, and everybody's, suffering as a result, but whatever, they're drunk on their power. And so while these drunk, despots are sleeping, we are awakening, and we may take this energy and rise with it and translate that into the new paradigm, the new age being birthed on the planet. This is such powerful information for me, and I feel a deep sense of like I've been shaken away to my purpose at even deeper levels, and I feel so excited to share it with you, because of course it's not about men versus women. It's about the fact that, and this just downloaded just before I started speaking, is that it is that the campaign to destroy the energy of the divine feminine on the earth and the end of the goddess worship was not simply about feminine and masculine or men versus women. It was the destruction of the divine, the destruction of the sacred. And whilst it is my belief that the feminine is the natural holder of the holy and the sacred, which once again is not masculine or male or female, it is all of us have the equal capacity to hold it. It is through men's bodies that desecration occurred, and the harm was caused to the female body. But the deeper purpose of what I want to share here is that it is the awakening of the divine. It is a return of the sacred to earth. And here I must let Mariam lead. And I knew that she was waiting to speak, and I've been known all week that it was her turn. And I'm just going to get out of the way. And I know she's here because I'm about to do the very first call with the new incoming priestesses, and I could feel her energy building, but she'd like to speak now. What she is trying to convey in her own muddled way, because this knowledge is just percolating through the denser 3D fabric to reach her, is that it is indeed a return of the full and holy representation of consciousness, that which was cut in half, if you like cutting the legs off the body and expecting the body to still be able to thrive and make its way in the world. It was the cutting off of one arm of the creature, that is human consciousness, and expecting it to still make sense. And of course it couldn't, and it didn't. And this lust, this drive for power and authority and ownership was what determined the fate of humanity up to this time. And now the other arm is returning. So it is the holiness, the return to holiness, the wholeness of human consciousness that is coming into being at this time on the earth. And it is happening through the awakening to the sacred. We may call that divine feminine consciousness awakening, but please don't reduce it to that. And you may take offense at me saying that and may wonder, perhaps am I belittling the divine feminine? And I assure you I am not. Even the division of masculine and feminine is a fallacy. It is an unholy error, and we may correct our perception. It is natural to associate the divine with the tendencies of the feminine energy. It is receptive power. It is absolutely appropriate to think of it that way, and yet we must correct our language and the way we share with the world now, because unless we are willing to see that it is the return to the divine and holy for all, some will count themselves out. Do you understand? Some will say, well, that's not my battle, that's not my war, that's not my awakening, that's not my path, because here I am, I'm a man, or here I am because I don't associate with the feminine. Whatever it is, if we make it about gender, we've belittled it, we've belittled the cause. What I want us to do is to think instead of terms of holiness and wholeness, and to recognize that it is our task at this time, dear ones, to be active holders of that awakening consciousness, to return it, to birth it back into its full expression, which is that man was never meant to be placed upon the earth as a secular creature, but he was here to meet himself as God, and instead he decided to become a god, to play God, as this one would say, instead of recognizing it was not about the attainment of unholy power, it was about the attainment of holy power. That desire to go towards power is not wrong. It was never a problem. The way that it occurred, however, was the idea that one over the other, male over female, all of the ways in which we create duality thinking and binary thinking in human consciousness has caused the suffering. It is now the return to divinity for all. We must all wake up and remember we are God. We must all wake up and remember we are God. And that is how we will bring the revolution in consciousness, and the new paradigm will be born for all. It is not a battle between sexes. This is not about who has it more than the other. It is about those who must be willing to lead. And then, yes, in the terms that this one speaks of, the priestess is as much in the male body as in the female body, but perhaps human consciousness is not quite ready for that. But I want you to be assured that this is the awakening of consciousness to its divine nature. And I am not the only one. I am one of millions speaking of this. And all paths lead us back to this truth. I hope my meaning is clear. Duality thinking in any way will cause our undoing. We must think in unified terms and act in unified ways. And that is our healing. We are both equal parts human and divine. That is the experiment. That is the exact reason that we did this experiment of this civilization, of all human civilization on earth, to meet ourselves as God through the mundane. Could it be possible to take such a lump of clay and animate it? And the answer is yes. And it has been done billions of times, billions and billions of times. We are here to meet our God power. That is our holy task assigned to us. And it is indeed a moment where the powers that be, whatever and however you perceive of them, perhaps are so drunk on their power that they are no longer focused, and we are. And so we must take this moment to course correct all humanity. The awakening of all is in our hands. Thank you. Okay, dear beloveds, thank you for letting me share my dream and letting me share Mariam with you. And I hope that resonates and that there is something in that for you that like it has done for me, awakens you in a slightly bigger, deeper, vaster way. I feel like that dream was an initiation and a blessing, and I'm so grateful for that. And today is a very big day because we are gathering the new priestesses for the first time together, which is very sacred. And then tomorrow we are undertaking, or I'm heading off on the first ever postgraduate retreat. So it is a very powerful time. And of course, we know that astrologically and in all those ways, there's big energy available to us now. But I feel like my understanding has been cracked open even more, and my commitment to my path, we have to wake up as many people as we can. This is the moment, is even more anchored in me, and I'm so grateful for that. So thank you for joining me and letting me speak out loud to you what's been going on for me, and yeah, let's just keep moving in that direction. Mwah. All my love.